Well, welcome. So glad you're here tonight. This is our New Tracks Meetup. Thanks so much for coming. Hope you'll come again. Hope you'll invite your friends to join us. Ed, I think you have some announcements you'd like to make.
Yes, I do. It's basically
Well, welcome.
asking for help again.
So glad you're here tonight. This is our New Tracks Meetup. Thanks so much for coming. Hope you'll come again. Hope you'll invite your friends to join us.
I need to.
Ed, I think you have some announcements you'd like to make.
Sorry about that. I'm still learning some small details and all that. But
asking for help again.
basically, we're looking for help again.
This is our New Tracks Meetup.
It's one of those things
so
of
much for
trying
coming.
to make
Come
the
again.
team
Hope
a
you'll
little
invite
bit.
Ed,
Yes.
Ed, you haven't solved the problem.
I have not solved the problem. Sorry about that. I'm still learning some small details and all that. Are you still getting the echo? Basically, we're looking for help again.
It's both of us talking, Ed. You might want to start over.
Trying to make the team a little bit.
Ed,
You have some kind of loop back going on.
I have not solved the problem. Sorry about that. I'm still. All right.
Do you want me to start over, Ed?
All right, let's try it that way. I turn my computer voice off. All right, yeah, I guess let's try this again.
Well, you want to do a fresh recording perhaps, or?
No, because I mean, we're going to be chopping it up anyway, so we'll go that direction.
Well, welcome. Welcome to New Tracks Meetup. Thank you so much for coming. Hope you'll join us again, and I hope you invite your friends to join us. Ed, I think you have some announcements you'd like to make.
Yes, thank you, Jim. I would like to, ask for help again either on Zoom or YouTube. What has happened is that New Tracks has gotten too large for two people. And we're trying to split up all the different little details of what we have. I'm hoping to have at least like two more or three more co-hosts for Zoom monitoring. That includes the chat room and etc. And then there's also the chat room on YouTube. It's one of those things of this organization has gotten too big for only two people. I mean, we have presenters that need to be, or we're thinking about re-recording them beforehand and all that. So if anyone is interested and has a little expertise and want to volunteer to make this a bigger and better show and all that, please come along.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Ed.
Yep.
I'd like to talk about our website a minute. It's newtracksmodeling.com. newtracksmodeling.com. And if you haven't yet, if you'll register at the site, then you'll get notices of all of our future shows. And we hope that you'll do that. It'll make sure you don't miss any. Our train show starts March the 20th and 21st at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I think you're going to really enjoy it. We have some great sponsors, the Great Scale Model Train Show in Timonium, Maryland, the MRH Media LLC, and Soundtracks. We're going to have some special events, some door prizes, some model railroads running. We hope you'll join us. It should be a lot of fun. Should be the best one we've done so far. Chris, you want to talk about the My Bill that's coming up February the 27th?
Sure. We've got, like Jim's just said, February 27th is the next My Build. If you have a project that you've been working on, maybe you're a little stuck, or maybe it's you've got a car or a building or something that you're particularly proud of that you'd like to share with the group, please drop me an email, and I will put my email address in the chat, and that way you can basically reserve a spot for that weekend or for that event. So I will turn it back over to Jim.
Okay, and we also have Greg Cassidy and Chris are going to do a kits building that's starting March the 3rd. And Chris, you might want to take a minute and talk about the model and how to order the model and the cost of the models and so forth, and what scale that they're going to be in.
Sure. If you give me the ability to screen share, I will go ahead and show you the bill, the info on it. There it goes. Okay, so this is our building here. It is the Gray Street house, the company house version. Basically, what it was inspired by Greg Cassidy, who had actually taken and added a front porch to it a while back, and I liked it so much. And when this opportunity came up, I said, "Well, let's do a special build of it." So this is now the kit. This is what the Gray Street house has evolved into, and you can order it by going to conowingomodels.com, and it should be one of the first ones that pops up in the sales. Or actually, I think on the first page, if you page down, you can see it there as well. It is HO scale, and there is also an O scale version, which you see in the lower left corner here with the original Gray Street house. The build begins March 3rd. Depending on which scale you want, we'll have both available. There is a sale this weekend. I don't remember the exact numbers because I did it a couple days ago. I put it together, and we can, I spent today putting a bunch of these kits together so we can get them all out to you guys in time for the build. But Greg and I were talking the other night, and these are the topics we're going to go over. If you haven't built a kit in a while, or maybe you just want to learn something a little bit new, or maybe you just want to look at watch the build for a refresher, or build along with us. That's what we want, is we want everybody to build along with us. The topics that we'll go over will be in like 15-minute-ish segments. The first is bracing the walls and building the base. And then the second episode will be to paint, and should be painting and roofing, walls, doors, windows, and strip wood. And then the third session will be install the windows and doors, and then assembly the building itself along with the porch roof. And then finally will be the roof fitting and the roofing itself. Along with some other little details here and there. But anyway, that's what's planned for now. We may actually have a little bit of help with that in terms of lighting. So we'll get a little bit more in depth in that once we if that actually comes to fruition. But anyway, to order this kit, go to conowingomodels.com. And both the HO and the O scale versions are on sale this weekend. So I'll turn it back over to Jim.
Chris. And listen, I'd really like to give a plug to Greg Cassidy. Greg is the person that's actually going to do the hard work of building the kit. And Greg is the person that I went to and said, "What do you think of this idea? And are you interested in doing it?" And he said he was, and was enthusiastic about it. So Greg, I really do appreciate this. Watching Greg do this, I think we're all going to learn something from a really talented, skilled model structure builder. And this is something that I think is going to help a lot of people, whether you're an armchair modeler right now or you haven't been in the hobby for that long. I think you're going to really benefit from these sessions. And Greg and Chris, thank you so much for being a part of it.
Well,
Bob?
thanks for the words, Jim. I'm happy to take part, and it's not hard work, it's fun work.
Well, then I called Bob Farquhar and asked him to do one, and he got Blair Line Models, Dale Rush, involved. And Dale has agreed to do it and provide the kits, and Bob has agreed to do it and build the kit. And you have another fantastic team. And Bob and Dale, thank you so much for volunteering. Now they're going to start their build on April the 17th. Probably sometime in May. Clark Cooney and Randy with Downtown Deco are going to be doing a kit. And Gaylord Gill, one of his friends, and Bar Mills are going to do a kit. So we're going to have 4 of them. And we're going to try it out and see how much you all like it, to see what ideas you have for making it better. And then we'll go from there. But those are the 4 that we've got lined up with some fantastic builders. I really think you're going to enjoy this. And I think that you're going to get some tips from these people that regardless of how long you've been building kits and so forth, you may find interesting and informative. So thanks everybody for wanting to do this. Now I'd like to turn to Paul Thompson with our quick tip for the evening. Paul?
Great, thank you, Jim. I'm going to share the screen here. What my tip is tonight basically is for the people that, now is that up?
Yes.
Okay. Why do I have this in the middle? Okay. I'll get rid of it. Now I can see. Okay. Tonight, I'm just going to briefly describe what happens when somebody wants to, in HO, replace plastic wheels or replace a wheel set on a truck. And they put it together and all of a sudden it is too sloppy or it doesn't roll worth a darn. And one of the things I'd like to point out is axle lengths are not always the same. And what I tried to do here is prove that. Each of these axles on the outside is lined up on the inch, and going to the inside, you can see the difference on the ends. And that's something not a lot of people pay a lot of attention to. They'll go out and they'll take a reamer and they'll ream things out, but it may just be they've got the wrong axle in there. And what I've done here is attempt to show the difference in axle widths and types. There's steel, there's plastic, there's all kinds of different things. And the ends, of course, some are needle point, some are bulkier. And all of this will affect how you put the truck together when you replace the wheels. It's something that you should be aware of. And just so you know, you can go to places like Reebok and get specific axle lengths. This one, I believe, was for an Athearn 70-ton roller bearing truck, which needed a much narrower axle. Anyway, that's something to sort of put together. And here is a nice illustration that illustrates the difference in what happens when you go to different axle lengths. So it's something to be aware of, guys. And that's my tip for the night. Thank you.
Well, that ought to save everybody a lot of trouble and frustration. So thanks very much, Paul. And now for one of our special segments, Bob Farquhar on building structures. Bob, welcome.
Okay, share screen here and I'll go. Come on here. And there we go. So tonight's going to be the assembly. We've already done the preparation, paint, tools, stuff like that. So we're doing assembly today. And the one thing I forgot to put down in the previous presentation, when they're on if the kits have the drawing available, what I do, I photocopy that drawing, and then make sure it's one-to-one. Some printers / copiers go off by 10%, so make sure you get exact sizing. And what I do, I put the paper down, put wax paper over top of it, tape it down, then I put some drops of glue on some of the wood. So for an example, this piece here, I put 2 drops in behind that, glue, set it on here, put some weight on it, let it dry for about an hour, and then I could build the rest of the stuff. And when I'm done, Then I take the plastic, the wax paper off, and then I get to clean up any of the glue residue when I dropped it in there. So that's, anyway. So you've seen this picture before, and that's why I build my wall sections on there, because it's flat and it's tempered glass, so it won't break or stuff like that. So this is an example of what I've finished now. Here, this has all been painted, weathered. The windows are installed, the doors are installed, the glass has been installed, the signage is there. Most of the trim pieces on here are in there as well. And you got pretty much ready to go. And also have at this point here, after I do this, when it's flat on that timber glass, I do the bracing. You just barely see the bracing in through here. And now this example, this is another kit, and this was a pressed paper kit by Bear Mills, and it needed a lot of bracing on here, because otherwise you can't do anything with it. You had to do that first. That's one of the few times I do bracing first, and I generally do the bracing afterwards. So when you do the corner pieces, so this example will be 4 walls altogether. So 2 walls, and do machining squares here to make sure it's fully square inside and out. And then I do the other 2 at the same time over here. And then when they're dry, I'll join them together. So this is an example where I squared this side and squared this side here. But this, of course, is a different angle in here. So I made up a cardboard stiffener. And so this wall can sit on that slope to glue it together properly over here. And then just it's not clean and neat because I'm not detailing the inside. This is for bracing for the other wall. So this is the time too for lighting. Now did have a presentation for lighting, but Jeff Bunza is doing some fantastic job on animation on lighting that I'm not going to bother much with lighting. But this is the time you have to decide what you're going to do about lighting. Are you going to do lighting in hall? This example here, and this room in here be enclosed, so you'll be able to take all the wiring for the lighting in here and drop it through that through the layout, or maybe put your light power source in this room. And for example, over here for the lighting, just maybe glue the wires to the roof and then bring it down this room here. This is an example. You have to do this before you do the rest of the building. So now this is where the other ones have been done. Now I'm not detailing the inside of this particular kit, so I'm not too worried about not going to be doing inside lighting at all, and let the natural light go through the windows and through here. Actually, I put in blue view blocks in here with black paper, and so you can't see from one side to the other, and notice that there is no detail inside. And eventually I'll put lighting out here on these doors. Because it's not going to be detailed and not lit up at night type of thing, I'm just going to do dummy lights type of thing for here. But that's the idea. You want to do it now. For example, if you did want to do lighting in here, you'd run the wiring down behind this wall, this corner here, for an example. There's another example. I do these 4 walls together, then these 4 walls, and then attach it to this building, and then these 3 walls. Make sure they're square. And my bracing here, now this clapboard siding is not very thick, as you can tell by here, and that's going to be joining on to this trim piece here. So that's not a lot of glue surface. So I make sure my bracing is attached such a way that it's touching this wall and that end wall. You can see it here as well, and it's over here, in here. So then you get good to sport. This particular one, I'm not doing the inside as well. Not detailing it, except for here I am. I make a little floor. I will make a little floor, or actually I have done it. Make a little floor and do 3 walls along there, and then you'd be able to just normal daylight. I don't need a light like that tall, so I'm not worried about that. And this is an example again. This is from I've shown this picture before, but when it glue the walls flat, I do the windows then as well. When the windows are open, I glue them when it's flat on my surface of my glass. And in this case, there's going to be doors blocking this entryway here. And this one here is an example. I made a floor and 3 walls, and then a little bit of detail inside. And that's what it looked like with natural lighting, like natural outdoor lighting. But I'm not doing inside lighting this one because the inside is not detailed. I wouldn't do that one. But so anyway, that's it for tonight.
Bob, on the three-story building, I think it was the sail maker building.
Yeah.
You had some odd corners on that building.
Yes.
How did you miter those corners?
Just with a sign paper, about 180 grit sandpaper, and just put a board in with like, I can't. I actually have a board here. One with a 60-degree angle, with 90-degree, and a 45. So I put that in the backing of it and keep my the wall on there, and then slide it back and forth on the sandpaper.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Bob. I really enjoyed that. Appreciate it so much. Next, I see that Philip Burnside is here. And you've heard me talk about, I think a few minutes ago, about the steel SIG from the NMRA. And I attended their Zoom meeting at lunch today, and I was really impressed with the people that I met and the way that they handled their meeting. They're having their convention this year, I believe, in August in Detroit, if at all possible. And Philip, if you'd like to talk for a minute or two about your convention, you're most welcome.
Yeah, the convention, assuming that things go well with everything set up over in Detroit, is going to be August 18th to the 22nd. The Thursday will be a boat tour of the industrial parts of Detroit, specifically aiming at the steel mills there that are currently active, as well as some of the ones that are starting to shut down. But most of those are starting to come back strong these days, which is really great to see. We follow that by a Friday where we have a full day of clinics on everything from basic modeling to advanced techniques. I usually present stuff with 3D printing. I've done quite a few things along those lines. In fact, I even show people how to do things with 3D printing to build them better. So we give a lot of clinics on what are techniques you can use to build almost anything. Here's an example of a model that I'm making of a nuclear waste or nuclear spent fuel container for the Navy. This is all 3D printed parts to be able to transport it. I wanted to have special movements on my layout because they actually do move these by the Pittsburgh area where I'm modeling. So, and that's because I'm a retired Navy person. I wanted to have something like that, just have fun on the layout to mess up the operation sessions, because when one of those comes through, everything has to stop. So just to tease everybody, make it hard for them. So I've been doing that for quite a while. Our steel mill, what we call steel zooming, happens every month on the second Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And if anybody's interested, I'm sure Jim can pass on our contacts, because I send it out there to everybody and put it even on the NMRA websites, Facebook pages, so that people can attend if they would like to. You don't have to be a member to attend. We're just wanting to have a good time having a nice chat about different modeling ideas and what's happening these days. Everything from the most current to basic skills. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Philip, and thank you for inviting me to your show. It was really great. I really enjoyed it, and I'll come back. Next, I'd like to go to Andy Kinney. And Andy is going to talk about his operation corner again. Andy, I love that idea that Philip had about disrupting your operating sessions with a nuclear waste car.
Yeah, I'd shut them down for a day, wouldn't it? Okay, you all set for me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are.
Let's see, here we go. Share. Okay, tonight, I thought I'd go over some basic switching, just to get people in the frame of mind that the train is actually doing something, not just running across your railroad. This is fairly simplistic. We don't talk about the rules. We don't talk about the best way to set the train up, the consisting of blocks and all that, or the blocks in the consist, I should say. Basically, this will give you an overview of things to think about and what can get you started. I'm still presenting all this as most of you are new and are not into operations. So for those that are, it probably is not going to excite you too much, but at least it'll give the others some ideas of the best way to go about getting into it. So these are just thoughts on creating your first switching session. This is just a picture of one of my switching districts. Is Madison. It's a peninsula. We have a lot of industries in a small area here with a lot of track. A lot of people won't have that. They'll have something a lot simpler, but that's okay. That doesn't make it any, I should say, it doesn't mean you can't do some good operating sessions with it. So, okay, so prepping for a session, things we should think about. Where will your train originate? If you have a yard, or you have staging, then your train can come out of either one of those, and it can go to a certain location, do its switching, and then continue on from there. And that leads into the second part, where's it gonna work? I should go back to the original. If you don't have the yard or staging, say you just have a big loop, take the backside of that loop away from the town where the switching is, build your train there. And then you simulate the train coming into the town from another town far off or not too far off, it doesn't matter. But basically it's coming into town to doing its work, and then it'll travel on from there. So next, where will it work? You pick the town out and you have a route for your train, where it originates, where it goes, and where it terminates. Next, determine the train's routing, which is you want to know what route on your railroad the train's going to take to get to those locations, and have those set up. And some railroads might be a little bit more complicated than others, so you decide as you need it. What industries and customers will your train switch? It goes into a town. If it's a smaller town, it's probably switching all of them. If you've got some bigger industries, then you might just switch to one industry if it has enough traffic in and out. Then verify that you can switch all the customers. And from that, if your train's coming in from, say, the west, you are without a runaround track, which we're not getting into tonight, but without a runaround track, you're only going to be able to switch customers that you can back into with the cars. You can't, and that is a trailing point switch. If you come into the switches and your locomotive is first into the customer's spur, you're not going to be able to drop a car off. So there's two ways of handling that. If you have a runaround, which allows your engine to get from one end of your train to the other, then you can work these cars into whatever customers you need to do with a little runaround work. If there is no runaround, what you can do is have a train work the customers in one direction that it can work, and then say the next day, another train comes from the other direction. It could be the same train. They might go from town A to town B, and then the next day go from town B back to town A. And a lot of locals work that way. So that's something you want to consider before your train leaves to do its work. This is all in the planning stage that you go through. Then you build your train consist, and all the consist is what cars, what traffic are you going to have in your train, what you need. So you go ahead and you build that. And then you create a switch list to direct your work. And a switch list, now, first of all, let's say this is a town. This is a little more complicated than some towns, and not as complicated as the larger industrial areas. But the main line comes from the right and goes through, and you see I've added this line to signify that the line goes on. This This I got off the internet, and basically it's an industrial area. The trains come in and out here. You can't go through. So we're simulating that's the main line goes through town. Now you code each of the industries, and you'll find each railroad is different. But instead of putting down on your switch list, which we'll get to in a minute, instead of putting down the brewery company and Grandma Paul's Real Pie and such, you just give them a code. A means the brewery, B means Grandma Paul's, C Central Warehouse, and so on. So you have a code for every customer, every track that you've got. If you have spots on a track for more than one car, like say this one right here, say 3 cars can fit there, you'd have A1, A2, A3. Sometimes they'll want you to put the car in a specific spot. If they do, you'll have that on your switch list for your work. So that shows you what we're going to be working here. This is another picture of mine, and talking about the runaround. Here's a runaround track. This allows the train or the engine to come in with cars, run around them, so then they can switch the cars into the tracks they need to be switched into. Okay, a switch list. This is a short version. I make a full 8.5 by 11. It's actually 8.5 by 5.5, half the sheet. And what you do is you put your work, not the crews do this. And they can do this as the train gets into town if they want. It's a lot easier just to have it all done ahead of time. I should say if you have car cards, you can do it as the train gets into town. If you don't have car cards, which gives you all the information on the cars, where they're going and such, then you have to make this up ahead of time. So the switch list is basically done by the crews, and these are done in the yards mostly, but you'll find out on the road, small towns and such, a station agent will go around to the customers and find out what cars they need picked up and let them know what cars are coming in and where they want them. And he will make this switch list up for the crew. Either way, you make it or the station agent makes it, this is what you work off. So you have the initials of the railroad, and some of them, they shorten that up. The P stands for Pennsylvania Railroad and such. Each railroad does its own thing. These are the cars in the train, standing in the train. So you're coming into town with these cars, and you're going to place these cars at A1, C2, H, E1, I2, and J1. That's what you're going to be switching into the customers. You're also going to be picking up these 4 cars with these numbers on them at B, G, B, and F. And you will be putting them into the train, and you'll be leaving town with these 4 cars. So again, you'll work the cars going in and pull the cars coming out. And we're not going to get involved tonight in how best to do that. That's something you can get over time, or have some experienced people you can work with, and you can pick up a lot of knowledge from them. But just play with it. Get the cars all set. No 050ing either. You want to work it all with the engine as a crew. So these are now the cars you've picked up, and those are in your train, and the train's departing. That's basically as far as I'm going on the actual switching job. And well, here again, this was for cars for pickup. All right, now thoughts on crew performance. When I first started operating, I was always in a rush. I was always worried about getting in trouble. I was on the main line. I was going to get run over by a road train coming through. So I was always rushing. And you have to learn not to do that. You have to learn to run by the rules, and we'll learn the rules as we go along here. But the main thing is you're on that train for as long as you need it to do the job, and there's not a time limit. So you want to, first of all, take time down here and think about what you're going to do when you arrive. So just look at the cars, where they're going and which cars you're picking up, and then work it out in your mind how you want to do that. Then use your time you need and do not rush yourself, as I was saying. You want to think about the crew and how they would actually perform their duties. A lot of times you will find most model railroaders, they're running their train down the track. There's a switch coming up, and if it's wrong, they'll run ahead and line that switch up and then come back, keep running their engine without stopping. Well, in real life, you've got to have somebody do that. And when you're simulating operations, you should simulate stopping the engine at the switch, giving the head brakeman time to go out and line the switch, and then run your train just as if you had people on the ground and you needed to have them in specific places. This allows you to slow down, and this allows you to just enjoy it. And it's challenging, but it can be a lot of fun. And then before you leave a location, make sure that you've done the work correctly. Verify that all the cars on that switch list are in their proper locations, and verify that the cars you're supposed to leave with are on your train. And if they're not, don't 050 it. Go back in there and fix it and do it correctly. Okay, Jack Ozanich passed away last year, and it broke a lot of our hearts. We operated with Jack, and he taught me more than anybody else on operations. And the biggest thing he taught me right at the beginning was slow the hell down. And if you do that, you're going to enjoy operating a heck of a lot more. And this guy had 30 plus years as an engineer on the Grand Trunk, and he worked all kinds of trains, road switching and such. So he knew his stuff. But that's all I have for tonight. Any questions?
Yes, are there any questions?
I know I threw a lot out there, and I tend to babble a little bit. So if it was confusing, I'm always happy to correct what I said wrong.
Not at all. Not at all. Andy, the thing that I like about it, it shows that operation is just as applicable to a small layout as to a huge, gigantic layout.
Yes.
And that I think is important for people to understand.
Yes, no, I agree. I agree. You can have some really good operations, one or two people on a small railroad. It can be very satisfying.
Well, thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, now I've got a special treat for you. I'm going to talk about mentoring for a little bit. And I know this may bore some of you. I hope not. I hope you learned something from it because I'm committed to this. Mentoring is something that I wholeheartedly believe in. So how do you become an excellent model builder? Well, your first step, you find a mentor. What is a mentor? A mentor is a trusted counselor or guide. You listen to them. You try out what they tell you. You give them feedback. Your second step is you build a lot of models. It's the only way that you'll develop confidence in your building ability. And it's really the truly only way you're fully going to learn model railroading. So why is the mentor the greatest gift a model railroader can get? Well, a mentor has built good models. He's built bad models. He's built a lot of models. I've heard people say that the only difference between an exceptional builder and an average builder is that one of them has built more models than the other. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. That exceptional builder has been there, done that. Not once, probably hundreds of times. With a mentor, the main advantage you get is you'll build better models quicker than if you try to go it alone and try to do it 100% on trial and error. For one thing, the techniques that a mentor brings to you are things that he's tried, that he has thought up, that he has developed. over his experiences in building models, and they work for him. Most likely they'll work for you too. But what you may want to do is use your own imagination to solve a problem that you have. If his technique works for you, use it. If it doesn't, modify it, change it to something that does suit you, that does meet your needs, and then pass that knowledge on to future modelers. Then you become the mentor. A mentor will help you develop your confidence. I can't tell you how important that is. If you start building a model and you're absolutely sure at the end of the day you're going to be able to do it, you have a totally different viewpoint on building that model than if you're not sure that what you're going to turn out is going to be something that you're really going to be proud of. You're going to come away from that experience knowing that you can build anything you want. If you see it, you can build it. Now, there's all kinds of mentors. You need to pick the one you want. There are mentors that are fantastic structure builders. There are mentors who are fantastic scratch builders that build cars, that build locomotives, that are track planners, that are specialists in operations. It depends on the kind of education you're looking for. That's the kind of mentor you need to look for. Are there mentors available? You betcha. If there weren't, then we couldn't do these shows. If there weren't, the people that you meet on these shows, you may never have met. Some of the people that just attend these shows are exceptional modelers that can be anybody's mentor. Where else do you find mentors? All over the place. If people know that you're a model railroader, if people understand that you may need some help, you'll be amazed at the people that'll come up to you and offer to help you. Never be afraid to ask for the help. It's the greatest compliment you can give somebody, is to ask for their help. So you say, well, okay, mentor's important, but why do you write about it? Why do you host these meetings? Why do you spend so much time and effort on trying to talk about and deal with mentoring? Well, it goes back to my personal experience. I've been fortunate to have some really fine mentors in my life. Why they helped me, I'm not sure. It's certainly not my personality. Maybe they thought that I could be successful in what I wanted to do, and they see how far they could push me. But I've been fortunate to have the mentors. I know what it has meant to me. I know how important it has been in my modeling career and has enabled me to be able to build what I want now as reasonably well done. So what I try to do is I try to introduce people to you. I try to get you to meet them, maybe to understand them a little bit. Who are these people? Maybe to show their personality a little. Maybe by just asking them a couple of questions, or maybe just letting them talk for a while. Maybe so you feel, hey, I think I know that guy well enough. I can send him an email. I think he might be able to help me. Now let me ask him and see what he says. You'll be surprised. Don't ever forget that when they pass information to you, they expect you to pass the information to others. This is not something that just ends with you when you find a mentor, because the information that you get, they expect you to pass it on to future modelers. And that way, the hobby grows, the information continues to be passed. I tried to do my share. When I was really active in the NMRA, I was the achievement program chairman for 3 different regions in the United States. I've helped people get their MMRs. I've helped people get certificates. I've helped people try to learn how to build. I had a lot of enjoyment doing it. It was fun. But I'm not active like that anymore. So I use my articles. I use these shows. I use the people that I asked to be on the shows as substitutes for me being able to do it as I used to. I used to be an AP chairman, not just an AP chairman, but also the contest chairman in 2 out of 3 of those regions. I've heard every excuse there is of why people don't build models, why they're not interested in the achievement program, why they don't want to enter contest. Nah, don't want to do that. I don't do paperwork, too much paperwork. I'm a model builder. Can't do the paperwork. I've heard it all. When it comes right down to it, there's really no reason that they shouldn't participate. They're excellent modelers. They just have to want to do it. If you can get them to want to do it, then they'll succeed and they'll enjoy it, and it'll be a great educational opportunity for them. That's part of what my build that Chris Kuntz does for us is all about. We want people to show us and talk about what they're proud of, what they're having trouble with, what they'd like to learn about, what they need help to finish. Most of all, we just like to see what they're doing and have them tell us about what their efforts are in their model building. That's why Greg, Bob, Clark, and the Bills that we talked about a little bit earlier are all part of this. It's an attempt to try something a little different for the show, to try to get really talented modelers, really specially talented modelers, to demonstrate what can be done in building a kit. Off-the-shelf kit, no special deal, nothing special about it. Anybody can get the kit. We encourage you to buy the kits. We encourage you to build along with these great modelers. But that's what it's all about. Because unfortunate today, the ability that I had to spend every Saturday with my mentor for hours at a time and sit there and have him tell me stories and watch him build, those days aren't available anymore for a lot of us. So the option is we do it by Zoom, or we do it by YouTube, or we do it hopefully over the telephone, some way other than being able to sit there side by side and watch and learn. Are we doing any good? Frankly, you're the proof of the pudding. If you're building better models, if you're learning anything from these shows, if you're able to pass knowledge on to others from these shows, then yeah, we're doing some good. If you got any ideas how we can do it better, please let me know. I'm trying everything I can think of to make the shows enjoyable, interesting, and different. So any idea you have, it's worth a try, and I'm all for it. But let's take the other side. Let's say that we don't have mentoring. Let's say the knowledge doesn't get passed on. Then I don't think our hobby will be the same in the future. Won't be what I grew up with. Won't be what most of you grew up with. Won't be what I'd like to see us pass on to future generations. Why? The skills won't be there. The techniques won't be remembered. The people like me will be forgotten long, long time before. So who is going to talk about mentoring? Who is going to know the skills that were there, the techniques that were available, the efforts that were made to get to the hobby to where it is today, the creativity the kit manufacturers have brought to this hobby? What's available to us today? Do we want to see it expand and grow and develop? Then more people need to build models. We need to encourage building models, and we need to mentor the people that we can help and that want to learn from us. So who cares? Well, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we don't have a larger audience every show. I don't know how to get the audience. People say, don't worry about it, it'll come in time. Well, we've been doing these shows now for almost a year. May the 1st, it'll be a year, twice a week for a year. We're booked with featured modelers now through June of this year. So people want to be here. People want to see it, but not enough. And how to reach them, I don't know. We're trying everything we can think of. If anybody can help us, we welcome your help. We welcome your advice. We're struggling trying to get the more audience. We just aren't successful at this point, and I don't know why. I hear comments like, well, I don't want to participate because that's just a bunch of old men talking to each other. It's an amateur production. They can't get it right. It's not professionally done. Yeah, I'm to blame. You got it. We're just a bunch of old men. I'm one of them. Yep, our productions aren't MGM quality yet. But that doesn't mean we're not trying to get them there. It means that we are new to this technology, but we're trying. And that's all we can do at this point, and hope that we improve over time. We're trying. But then I'll wake up and go to my emails, and I get somebody that says, thanks so much. Really enjoyed last night. Thanks for having so-and-so. Never knew that manufacturer even existed. Thank you. And all of a sudden, it makes it all worthwhile. All the mess, all the phone calls, all the non-returned emails, everything that's involved in putting one of these shows on. Twice a week, almost a year, writing articles, 3 years, makes it all worthwhile. Because we are reaching somebody. And they're appreciative enough to say thank you. So how do you get a mentor? Assuming you want one, I hope you do. But how do you get one? You look for the most talented modeler you can find in the area that you want to learn about. If it's structures, who is the best structure builder you can think of? Who's the best one you can find? Who's the best one that can be recommended to you by a friend? Well, that's your mentor. Whether it's structures or cars or how to operate your railroad, how to track plan, whatever it is, you want the best. That's your mentor. Don't settle for anything less. You want the best. So where are they? They're all over. I think some of them have been here and are here tonight in this show. I think I've written about some. I think the magazines that are published in the model railroading press talk about them and have them in those magazines all the time. They're at your church, they're at your job, they're all around you. If they know you're a model railroader, if they know that you're looking for help, you'll find a mentor. May not be the one you want at first. You may go through mentors, 3, 4, 5, 10, how many ever you need, but you'll find a mentor. Keep looking for the best. Take what you got. Ask them questions. Don't ever be afraid to talk to people. I hear it all the time. I could never go up to that person and talk to him. That person's a really talented modeler. He'd laugh at me. I'd be embarrassed. I'm almost afraid to talk to him. Don't be. You'd be amazed. He puts his pants on just like you do. It's easy. Tell him what your problem is. Ask for his help. Remember, it's the greatest honor you can give him. You're asking for his help. And don't forget to say thank you. And how do you say thank you? You build models using the help he gave you, and you go back and say, thank you. I used your help. This is what I built. It was successful. I'd never have done it without you. Thank you. Build models. Even without a mentor, build a model. The trial and error, you never get anywhere else. I keep saying, with a mentor, it makes it a lot easier. It's less frustrating. But even if you don't have a mentor, don't wait to find somebody. Build a model. Try it yourself. It'll still help you build your confidence. It'll still get you past where you are right now. But the mentor does make it a lot easier. And don't forget to say thank you to your mentor. A lot of people don't. I hear people say all the time, you know, Jim Kellogg came up to me and asked me for help, and I gave him help. And you know, he didn't even bother to use it. He disregarded my help. Well, why should anybody help Jim Kellogg again? If that's the way I'm going to treat a mentor that is going out of his way to help me become a better modeler, then I need to use what his advice is. And I need to tell him the benefit of it and how it affected my modeling ability. You never stop learning. I don't care how talented you are. There's always something else to learn. There's always a new this or a new that. 20 years ago, who'd heard of 3D printing? I hadn't. I still can't do it. Why? I have no idea how to use the CAD to make the design. Pressing the button on the printer, I think I could probably accomplish that. It's getting the design done on a computer. There is no way I'm going to be able to handle. And then there's trying new things. Even without a mentor. For example, there's a dirty word in the hobby called scratch building. If you've never done it, try it. When you stop and think about it, and some people haven't, but when you stop and think about it, what's the difference between a kit builder and a scratch builder? The only difference is the kit builder had a personal shopper. He had somebody find the model that he's building. That same person went out and found bits and pieces from different places, found wood or found plastic, whatever he needed to build the model, put it in a box. And then he built the kit. The reason he's offering the kit in the first place, probably in many ways, is because he wanted to build the kit himself. He wanted the model for his railroad, so he's going to offer it as a kit. So he gets everything he needs to build it, and he builds it. Or he gives it to some friend and says, would you build this for me? And his friend builds it. Well, if you want to be your own personal shopper, if you have a photo, if you have a memory of something that you want to build, you don't want somebody else to tell you how to build it. You want to build it. Or it may not even be on the market. Maybe something very unusual. Well, scale it, draw it, go out and be your own personal shopper to get your bits and pieces and wood or plastic or whatever you're going to use, and build a model. How do you scale? Simple. Take a dimension that you know about, a door, a window, something that you can easily get the actual measurement of, and then convert that measurement to scale, and then scale the rest of the model around that. If it's a door, then scale the wall, scale the window. 3 more walls and you've got the sides of a building. It's not that hard if you want to be your own personal shopper to become a scratch builder. Develop your imagination. It's critical whether you're a kit builder, scratch builder, whatever kind of builder you are. Because your imagination solves your problems. You're building something and you run into a problem. How am I going to ever build that part? I need that part here. How do I get that part there? It comes from your imagination. May not come immediately. I can't tell you how many nights I've gone to bed thinking about a project I wanted to build the next morning, and knowing that I had a problem that I had no solution for. I wake up the next morning, have a solution, maybe even two. How I got them, have no idea. Where they came from, who knows. But I go out and I try them. It's exciting for me. It's thrilling for me to be able to use my imagination in some way to solve a model building problem. Learn when a model is finished. You've heard me ask that question to a lot of people on the show. How do you know when the model's finished, you put it away, you never have to build it again? How do you know that? And that comes with experience. I asked myself that question many years before I could come up with an idea of what the answer might be. And for me, I start with a purpose. If I'm going to build something, there's a reason that I'm going to build it. Don't know what that reason is. Different reasons for different projects. I want to enter in a contest. I want to get an achievement program award. I want it to fill a blank space on my layout. I want to give it to a friend. A lot of different possible reasons, but I always start with a reason. What do I want to build this for? What's my reason for building it? Then when I finish it and I look at it, if I see something that just doesn't ring my bell, I'll keep building it. If I look at it and I say to myself, yep, that's what I wanted to build, then I know it's finished. And I can put it away and start on a new project. For me, that's the answer to that question. It took me years to be able to say to myself, yeah, I know when that model's finished. So to summarize, find a mentor. It can be your greatest gift, your best friend, your buddy, maybe not, but a teacher, a guide, a trusted counselor, a person that can help you improve your modeling, absolutely. You give the mentor your greatest honor. You ask for his help. You give him back the thanks for helping you. Don't ever forget the thanks. Develop that relationship with your mentor. He helps you, you help him. You honor him, he honors you. And build lots of models. The more models you build, the better you get. You learn the skills, you pass the skills along. You get yourself a mentor, you become a mentor. That's how it works. That's what giving back in this hobby is all about. And at some point down the road, or maybe right now, you look at a model and you say to yourself and say to the world, I built that. That's my model. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Jim, just a thought.
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of Zoom meetings going on now because we're all in a lot of locations stuck in our homes. And this is about the most fun thing we can do. I think as Zoom meetings are reduced in quantity, you might find more people interested in getting involved in this. Because I don't know how much time people have to do both Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then if they have any others. But once they come here and try it, you've got some great presentations, and I think we could attract more people looking for the enjoyment of Zoom once they start reducing the amount to pick from.
That's a good point. And there are an awful lot. That's why I mentioned Philip Burnside a few minutes ago. I was really impressed with the way that Philip ran his meeting today for the steel guys. And I was really impressed with the caliber of the people that I met on the show And I'd be honored if some of them wanted to come on this show and talk to you about the kind of modeling that they're doing. One guy did a clinic and I learned something about a kind of wire that I had never even heard of before. I guess if you're into lighting and that kind of thing, this kind of thing is familiar with you. That's just something that I'm not that familiar with. So I really got some benefit out of it. So I'm conscious of what you're saying. I try to get people that I truly believe not only are talented, but that have fire in their gut. They're model builders. They appreciate model builders. They appreciate people that want to learn the trade, learn the craft, get better doing it. And they're willing to take the time to help people along. And that's the kind of person, frankly, Andy, like you are. And that's why I asked you to be a part of the show on a regular basis. I really believe that there's a role for operation in the hobby. It's not my cup of tea, frankly. I'm a model builder. I happen to build model railroad stuff, but I'm a model builder. I love to build models. I don't particularly enjoy watching a train, but I love to build the models.
Right. You know, it's interesting. They say most people into operations, they're happy with plywood and track. They don't need scenery. They don't need anything else because they're so tied into the operation. Not that they don't appreciate scenery. It makes it a lot nicer, but they'd be just as happy if there was no scenery.
And the reason that I invited people to talk about track planning, and the reason that I invite people to talk about animation, and the reason I want scratch builders, and the reason I want structure builders and car builders and all the variations in the hobby is because none of us are alike in the hobby.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if all you have on a show is people building structures, okay, fine. Then people building structures and like to build structures, that's who's attracted. Scale doesn't matter to me. You know, I've had people tell me, oh, he's an O scaler. Ah, he's an S scaler. I'm an HO guy. I can't deal with that. I've heard people say, there's no point in me becoming involved in the achievement program with the NMRA because I'm not an HO modeler, and NMRA is just HO people. So there's no point in me participating. Well, scale doesn't matter to me. I'm an O-scaler, O-scale traction. If I only looked for people that were mentors to O-scale traction modelers, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
My mentor was an HO regular scale modeler. But I learned how to build from him. I learned how to build from brass with him. I still have the lathe that he used to build with. I think of that man every time I sit down at my workbench. He had a tremendous influence on me. Scale doesn't matter. The people that are military modelers, and if you're into weathering and some of the detailing that they go into, there's so much that we can learn from them. The paint that they use, for example, I understand is better than the paint that we use. The model airplane people, you know, they're using stuff to control animation that I have no idea about because I'm not a model airplane guy. So I don't know how they work.
Jim, I'd like to say that you brought something into focus for me that I hadn't really thought about. And when you're talking about mentors, I realized that when I joined Model Railroad Club that I'm in now, back in the early 90s, I was learning all the time from the guys there. I didn't think of it as them mentoring me. I just knew that they knew more than I did. And every time we'd be working on the club layout, if I didn't know how to do something, I could ask them, or more often, if I was doing something, they'd come over and show me what I was doing wrong and how to do it right. And I can't think of how much I learned from them. but I never thought of that as mentoring. It was almost more like a mentoring group, the experienced guys teaching the new guys what they knew and passing it on. And now I'm one of the senior members in the club, and we have some younger members, and they bring a whole bunch of different skills and everything, but we're still all learning from each other. I think clubs are good for that.
I totally agree. And it's funny. I've written about some clubs in my articles. I've tried to write about other clubs. Clubs don't want to talk about themselves. Why? I'm not sure. I don't really know. I know clubs are having trouble with membership around the country. I hear it from them every time I contact one of them to try to write about. I ask them what their mentoring program is, and all of a sudden the phone kind of goes dead and nobody has an answer because they don't consider themselves an outlet for mentoring. And I don't know why. Because they have so many people in the club that have so much skill. And they are passing it along. There's no question in my mind that people are learning from each other, but they don't seem to understand the importance of it or what they're giving the other people in the club. So I have trouble finding clubs to write about, and
I'll be in touch with you about ours someday.
Oh, that's great. I'd love to write about it. Love to write about it. I have more luck with writing about foreign clubs in England and Australia than I do in the US. And I don't know why that is.
Hey, Jim, we have a question from YouTube. Where do you have your articles?
Write for two magazines, S-Scale Resource and O-Scale Resource. Both of them are online publications. Both of them are free. I have an article.
1, 2, 3.
I have an article in every issue of both the magazines. And if he wants to send me an email, I'll try to get him on the list or answer him more directly.
All right.
So, Jim, this is Phil. I was going to make suggest a thought process. I think there might be, I would argue, 3 kinds of mentoring happening. And we kind of tend to think about mentoring because in the business world, it has this kind of formal relationship of you find a mentor and it's someone you get general advice about. I think kind of there may be a difference in modeling because people tend to be not general mentors. So I think, the idea of a general mentor may be there. But if you look at the club environment, Greg was talking about, there's a lot of what I'll call instant mentoring. And it's not thought of as a formal relationship. It just happens because you're brought together in an environment where that happens. And you can argue that the same kind of thing happens when you're getting a model judged and you get comments about it. It's that kind of feedback loop. But then I think there's a third kind of mentoring, which I think we need to really think about, which is that's virtual mentoring. So, if I go online and I look for staining wood siding and I see 10 YouTube videos and I pick 2 or 3 of those and I watch how they do it, and it's someone who's, is good at it. In many ways, I'm getting virtually mentored by that person. It's kind of an instant. It doesn't have the same physical relationship, but there's this transfer of knowledge that happens. And I think one of the challenges with having that kind of formal mentor relationship is it's both really hard to develop, but it turns out we have so many specialties that, if I want, the person who's really good at staining wood may not be the best person at, wiring JRMRI. So my mentors change on topics too. So I think we need to maybe think, I think a lot of mentoring really is happening. It's just happening in different ways. And the question is, how do you make that kind of recognize people for what they're doing there, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel that because the people that are doing the videos, the people that are trying to provide the information, they have no idea who sees the videos. They have no idea who they're working with. Therefore, there is no feedback to them. There is no thank you. I appreciate your help. I used your system and it works. It's beautiful. It's great.
So,
now we have. Excuse me.
So that comes back to this. I mean, you asked the question why you don't get more people coming to an event. And I would make the argument, so I think you can stop and think about this event in kind of three dimensions. You know, there are people, actually, can I share my screen? I'll show you a slide and it'll help explain it. So this is actually a slide from a book I wrote. And this basically talks about the idea of understanding who you're marketing to. So you start with the universe of unknown suspects. Those are all the modelers in the universe. Then you get some people that kind of raise their hand and express interest. Then they become qualified prospects, they become customers. I think there's a really interesting question here, which is the problem getting enough people to hear about this as an event? Or is it getting more people once they understand what it is to come to the event? And I think one of the things is that to some extent, you got to position this as an event that has two differences about why you want to attend. The first is that it covers topics that you don't get in other places. And, you know, in terms of the value of them, et cetera, new topics, you know, the new tracks is not somebody doing a clinic, it's really new thought processes. The second side is that if you're in this event, you get the opportunity to interact. My wife made a really interesting comment. She does nose work. And she was talking about webinars she goes to. And I asked the question about why she goes to will go to the webinar versus watching the recordings. And she said, generally, if you want to ask questions or have some interaction, you have to go to the webinar. So I think, you know, one of the other things to do is really to think about, you know, how do we encourage interaction to get that instant mentoring to be more than just the video presentation you see on YouTube, but more interaction about the techniques and understanding and feedback. So just some kind of thought process. I think everyone is struggling with this. By the way, I have some interaction with the NMRA guys for the July NMRA convention. And that's one of the thought process there is really how do you replicate the interaction you normally get at a national NMRA convention in a virtual environment, because that's a lot of the benefit value versus what's available as content. If all you're doing is watching stuff, you can watch on the internet and watch recordings. Right. The other thought process too is, again, that idea of the number of people who come to the event versus the number of people who ultimately watch it. There's kind of the value of the content is the sum of those. The value of the interaction and being there for the event is what you created in people wanting to come to the recording.
See, what I'm hearing, and I don't know whether this is fact or not, this is what people are telling me. People that are doing the Zoom meetings are saying, we're not doing it for the audience. We're doing it for YouTube viewers. We're doing it to produce the video and put the video on YouTube, and that's where we get the majority of the people, and that's who we're really doing this for. We're not really interested in the people that come to the show. Well, I look at this differently. I'm interested in the people coming to the show. Why? Because to me, this is as close as I'm going to get to meeting potential mentors for myself and being able to meet them, talk to them, evaluate whether what they're doing and is right for me, and then being able to follow up with them later if I really want to ask them some questions that'll benefit me specifically. Well, I don't know how you do that if all you're doing is looking at a YouTube video. If you're here, if you're able to ask the questions, no, you know, we don't mute anybody on this thing. You're willing to, you're able to ask questions at any time during the show. We encourage that, and that to me is what's important, because that's how I learned. And you know, I keep going back to my lessons. How I learned was I sat by the man's side. You know, we laughed together, we joked together, and then he would spend an hour showing me in detail how to use a lathe to make a very small detailed part that he needed for a model. And he would let me use it, and he would let me try it. And, you know, there's jokes that I tell about this. The first session that I had with him, I was sitting there and we were eating donuts and he said, Jim, hand me the ball peen hammer. Well, you know, I was a reasonably old guy in my late 30s. I had no idea what a ball peen hammer was. I didn't even know where to look. But I didn't want to admit to him that I didn't know that. So I'm fumbling around on the workbench by the side of me, you know, and so I'm sure, you know, he let me play around for probably 2 or 3 minutes trying to pick up pieces and so forth. But I didn't really know what I was looking for. There were hammers there, but you know, they were just claw hammers. I knew what a claw hammer was, but a ball peen hammer, I'd never used one. Didn't know what it was for. So pretty soon he says, Jim, it's the one right there under your arm. You know, if you'll just pick that one up and hand it to me. And I was so embarrassed. But I learned what a ball peen hammer was. Well, what did he use it for? He took a piece of brass, a probably 10 or 15 thousandth inch thick piece of brass. He put it in a wooden bowl that he had carved out. And he started whacking the hell out of that piece of brass with a ball peen hammer. And before I knew it, he had the end of one end of a brass trolley roof hammered out of that piece of brass. And he showed me how to do it with a ball peen hammer. I never will forget that. That's how I make my roofs. That's how I make my trolley roofs. And I sat there and watched. And yeah, I got embarrassed because I was stupid. I didn't know what the thing was. It wasn't a question of me being stupid. I just didn't know. Well, the only way you're going to learn is to make mistakes. I learned that early in life. If you've never made a mistake, you haven't tried. So the only way you're going to learn is to make mistakes. Well, I've made my share. Anybody that builds model makes their shares. But a mentor can help you make your share of mistakes, but less of them. And fix them easier. And learn faster. And however that has to transpire, given our society today, is what I'm trying to figure out for this show. I think it needs to be in person. I think if I can get the audience to increase in person, people will learn more than they will simply watching the video later. Will they learn something from the video later? Sure. But not as much as if they're able to ask questions of the guy at the time he's making his presentation.
Jim, you know, I've thought about the difference between Zoom meetings and YouTube videos and other online sources. And one thing that struck me, even though all of these are new, relatively new to us, if you think back to your college days, you had a couple choices of how you would gain knowledge. You could go to the lecture hall and listen to the professor, and you could interact some, ask questions, talk with your fellow classmates some, or you could go to the library and look the stuff up. Now, the stuff the professor would be teaching usually would end up in the library if it wasn't there already. But it was two different ways of acquiring knowledge, and I think they're both important.
I would agree. I would totally agree.
You know, Jim, the other thing, the other angle I'd like to take on this, I taught flight for 21 years. And one of the places I got my best and most knowledge was not from my mentors. I got it from my students. And I think some of the joys of mentoring itself, and some of the people that I've watched here, Jeff Bunza in particular, I would have given my right arm to have him come to somewhere near Burlington, Vermont, so I could be in his lecture, and now I can sit in the same room with him, and that's absolutely wonderful. I'm gonna take a lot away from him, and hopefully, when he does this, he'll get an insight too that will help him along. I think mentoring and being a student goes hand in hand, and I think, you know, with time, people will start to learn that this is a place where people can, you know, go in both directions. You've got a lot of mentors here, and I think that as time goes on, you'll see more students come in.
I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. I phrase it as the thank you part of it. I think the greatest honor you can give Jeff Bunza is to ask for his help. And I truly believe that. But I also think just as critical and just as important for Jeff is the thank you that he gets from you. Him knowing that you're out there using the skills that he has shared with you, using the information that he's provided you, maybe in a totally different way than he's ever envisioned. Maybe you've improved on what he gave you, but the thank you that you can give back to him, I think is critical. And you know, that you said it a different way, but I think we're saying the same thing. And I agree with you 100%. But a lot of people won't accept the value. I mean, you know, you can try to help somebody, but if they're not going to listen to you or they kind of laugh at you, then you got to wonder, well, why am I doing this? You know, if a guy says, well, you know, that shows just a bunch of old men sitting around talking to each other. Okay, that's somebody's attitude. But yeah, I don't know how to change the show for that. I mean, what do you do? Say, okay, if you're over 30, you can't be here? I don't know how you change the show. Don't want to, because the people that are here, they're exactly the kind of people that I hope would want to be here. They're talented modelers, or they're modelers that want to become talented or more talented than they are now, or that they're willing to learn new things about modeling, about how to improve maybe the total view of whatever they're working on. Whether it's lighting, you know, when I found Jeff, and it's a funny story how I found Jeff. I had somebody else that said that they wanted to do animation. I said, great. I started calling it automation because same thing in my mind, but it's not. And he got sick and sent me an email and said, you know, you need to call Jeff Bunza. He's the guy you need. I can't do it for you, Jim, but that's the guy you need. Well, I found out that Jeff Bunza does an awful lot of stuff with Joe Fugate on Joe's channel. So I didn't want to interfere. I figured, you know, if Joe's already, you know, doing some stuff with Jeff, I don't want to interfere in that kind of a relationship. So I sent an email to Joe and said, Joe, I'm looking for somebody that can do animation kind of stuff on my show. And I've heard about Jeff Bunza. I know he's involved with you right now. Would you mind if I ask him to be on my show? And Joe sent me and Jeff an email, in effect copying my email to Jeff and saying, Jeff, I think you ought to contact Jim. So Jeff called me up and we talked and so forth. And that's how Jeff got on the show. So from my standpoint, I got help from two sources. One person who I asked to do the subject because I knew he was talented. And at least I'd heard of him before. I'd never heard of Jeff Bunza before. And Joe Fugate. He helped me. You know, he didn't have to, but he did. So the thank yous are due all around from my standpoint. I need to thank Joe. I need to thank the other modeler who gave me Jeff's name. And I need to thank Jeff for doing one fantastic job, in my opinion, on animation and lighting and those kind of things. And I'm looking forward to what he's going to do next. The same as Andy. When I called up Andy, and I told Andy on the front end, same as I did tonight, operation is not my cup of tea. But at the same time, Andy, most of us don't have a basement or an attic or any kind of space the size that you have for a model railroad. So can you bring operations down to something that's manageable in today's world for the guy that's in an apartment, or, you know, all he can do is maybe some switching or something. I mean, is that applicable to operations? Can you talk to that kind of modeler too? And he said he totally could, no problem. He did tonight. I thought it was a fantastic session. Really was. A lot of people may have switching layouts, but they probably haven't really thought about operation the way Andy talks about operation.
Jim, I got a comment for you.
Okay.
As far as mentoring, first you got to find the person that really wants to learn. I had a kid over in this area. He lived in Elk Grove for a while, and he didn't know if he wanted to stay in O130. He wanted to go back to HO, and he had seen people cut up a lot of the Bachmann Forneys into a 240 with a tender, and he really liked that idea. Well, the way I ended up meeting him was, first thing I sold him a Forney. Then he wanted to come over and watch me cut another one up. And so I invited him over. He came in and said, I want to stand behind you while you do this. I said, no, you're going to do it. So I sat him down, handed him the razor saw, and told him cut from here to here. I stepped him all the way through it. He says, what if I break something? I said, well, you can't break anything I can't fix. So got that out of his way. And basically, yeah, he was really timid trying to cut through this thing. Just, no, you need to attack it a little bit better. And just sat there the whole time for him cutting it all up. I still haven't finished the model. That was a year and a half ago. He has since moved to Arizona, but he has now took things apart, painted things, repaired a couple of items. I sent him some wires so he could repair a slide guide on one of the 280s. And just once you find somebody like that, you really need to be, you can do it on Zoom, on a one-on-one or in a group like this, because you have to find out where they're at. Just tell them, go watch YouTube. A lot of the people who put things on YouTube don't really get down to the beginning modeler's level. They have a level that they can come back to, but they generally figure people have general knowledge up to a certain point, and some of the guys don't. And also the guys that say it's just a bunch of old men, they're talking. Just kind of remind them, someday if you're lucky, you'll be there too. Because we didn't get old by being stupid. We got there by living our life and doing the things we like to do.
You guys may be a bunch of old men. I certainly aren't.
Well, you're younger than I am, but that's okay.
One more thing I was thinking about when I was in the flight school. I used to tell, and I'll tell you guys the same thing. Said I don't mind. I love being a teacher. It's or a mentor. It's one of the most fantastic things I've ever been able to do. I taught chemistry in the chemistry lab to people who knew nothing about chemistry, or people who knew a little bit about, but not how to do production chemistry. I taught people how to fly, and now I'm teaching people how to put decoder buddies into locomotives. And my comment was, I'm in the right place because I've got people coming to me who want to be here. I said, I would no more be a teacher in the public schools than the man in the moon. And that's one of the things that I think maybe we should realize is that if we have 5 quality people that really want to be here, it's better than 500 that don't want to be here, especially. The gift is the people that we see on the screen tonight, all of us, and the people that have been here. That's the gift that we get. And I guess enough. Yeah, enough said.
Yeah, you present the opportunity and let whoever wants to be there and let them soak up the knowledge. But The biggest thing is find out where they're at.
Yep.
So that you can get something that's relatable to them.
What he just said is the most important thing, I think, and that is that people have to come and want to learn. I taught microprocessor night classes for 10 years, and the people who were there came because they wanted to learn. They knew they were going to have to use it in their job, and it was great. I mean, I learned things, but they learned things too, so they have to want to learn. So
that's the other thing, knowing that the mentor is learning as well as whoever he's trying to mentor. You're learning where they're at and how to get down and reach them.
Yeah, I think John Neely has wanted to add to the conversation, but has been able to jump in.
Yeah, I'm off the soapbox for a minute.
Hi, I've been attending for about 6 weeks, and I really have to say I'm one of those that I need to say thank you, because this has made me want to build and get in those kit builds, and I've never put together a wood kit or a laser cut kit or anything, but I'm going to try it. And I've been modeler since I was 7 years old, and I just am ashamed that I've never done it. But all the words of encouragement have made me want to do it. But I wanted to say I live in the Atlanta area. There's about 30 of us in here that have a roundhouse group that meet. And we've been meeting by Zoom once a week with about 15 people showing up each week. I'm sorry, about 29 people out of the group shows up for our Zoom meeting. And we're having a similar problem. We've got several MMRs in there, and they're always called on do all the work because everybody thinks they know them, or they think they're intimidated to talk to them because they're an MMR. I'm not intimidated. I'll ask them anything. But it's sometimes difficult because you feel like you're putting those guys that are the specialists and the experts, you're putting on them to just the pressure to develop a clinic or to develop a presentation. And I was just going to say, and I think someone mentioned this earlier, talking about virtual meetings, that now that we have this tool called Zoom, it's a great tool for working one-on-one with somebody, because you can, if you're calling on the telephone, you may have a hard time seeing what they're working with. But if they present a problem and they're working on this structure or this kit, you can actually see. So I think we've got a great opportunity here to use Zoom for some one-on-one mentoring as well as group mentoring. That's my comment.
I would totally endorse that. I think that's a great idea. In fact, it's something that I'd like to see us try to start on the show. I just don't know how to start it. If somebody out there is interested in this and would like to try to start something like this on the show, I'm all for it. I don't have the time myself to do it. I'm going to need some help to get something like that started. But I would love to be able to offer from the people that would be interested, who are on the show, the capability of later Zoom meetings. They can use. They don't have to worry about joining Zoom. They're welcome to use this, the one that we've got that we've paid for. We've got unlimited use of it. They could always use this Zoom for the one-on-one without costing anybody any money. And I'd be willing to do that. I mean, because I agree with you. The one-on-one, that's how I learn the most. I mean, there's no question about it. Being able to sit there and, every Saturday, I would bring a model that he had told me, I want you to build this. And I'd have a week then to go and build it. And then he expected me to bring it back and he'd look at it. And then he'd tear it apart and show me how stupid I am and so forth. And that went on for a long time. Well, eventually, slowly, he didn't lecture me as much and so forth. So I knew something was getting better. But it's funny. People talk about MMRs. There's nothing really that special about having an MMR. I'm telling you. I mean, all the MMR designates is that you have gone through the process that the NMRA recommends for a person to be certified as really understanding the operation, the function, and can actually build models of something, of freight cars, of passenger cars, of locomotives, of motor power, of structures, of prototype buildings, and so forth. And if you go through that and you do the amount of work necessary, then you get a certificate. And if you get X number of certificates, then they give you the MMR designation. But it doesn't mean that you know everything. My gosh, that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is you have demonstrated a knowledge in these areas. And that's basically what the MMR is designated. Now, some of us were stupid enough where getting the MMR wasn't good enough for us. We had to get every certificate there was. So the MMR then, we said, well, there needs to be a higher rank. You know, we're better than an MMR because we got them all, right? So back 30 years, 35 years ago, something like that, a proposal was made to the NMRA to have another designation called the Grand Master Model Railroader. And the NMR said, nope, we're not going to do that. MMR's as far as we're going to go. That's what we want to stay with. We're not going to do this. Well, those 4 or 5, 6 guys that had proposed it had, I think it was 8 patches made that designated Grand Master Model Railroader. And about 30 years ago, I happened to be given one of those patches. And I put it on my jacket. Now, I don't show it to a whole lot of people because I don't want to offend the NMRA or anything, but it is one beautiful patch. It really is. And at the time when I got the last one of all of them, the achievement program, National Achievement Program chairman at that point, who was one of the persons that had originally proposed this, had plaques made up, designated that you had achieved this and so forth, and when you achieved it and all of this. So you had a separate plaque. Well, I understand that they don't do that anymore. But at least I was fortunate to get one of the official plaques from him. And I do have one of the patches. And I laugh and joke about it, but it's something that I'm very proud of.
I would like to say something.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to agree with John and say thank you, Jim, for hosting this. It's the highlight of my week. And Wednesdays when I work late, I'm like, I come home and I eat dinner in front of the computer just so I can listen to you. And the first 20 minutes, it's great I think you're doing a great job. And I'm like John, I bought my first Walters catalog in '89. I've been planning my railroad for 10 years, Clark and Paul and I've done nothing. So now that I've been involved with this for several weeks now, I'm like, I got to do something just so I can show these guys that I can do it. So thank you very much, everyone that comes on the show, and the Zoom master for doing such a great job. And it's every Wednesday and Saturday night. This is what I do.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. Thank you so very much for the comments.
And the thing is, he also stays very late afterwards and all that, and that's when he actually turns the camera on afterwards.
I don't want to scare anyone away with my ugly face, so.
He's also possibly one of the taller ones here.
But I really, coming back to the comment made about the one-on-one, I really would like to see us be able to offer something like that. I don't know how to do it. I haven't thought it through. I need somebody, if you're really interested, to kind of think it through and then let me know and we'll do it.
Well, if I remember right, one-on-one can be done off of a free Zoom account. It doesn't have to be a paid account. And I don't think there's a limit on time.
That would be even better. I didn't know that. That would be great.
I
That would
think
be
there's
great.
this is John Dick. I think there's a 40-minute limit on the free one. 40 minutes is quite a long time, though.
I think the 40-minute was as far as having more than one person.
Is that
I'll
right?
take a look at it again, but if I remember right, a one-on-one on Zoom did not have a time limit.
Oh,
I think I heard that too.
Well, that would be great.
so if there's two people, I mean, if three people is the time limit?
Yeah, 3 people is a time limit, but it's just 2 people, 1 on each side. There's no time limit.
Oh.
Well, that'd be great. That would be great because that would be easy then. You know, and really we wouldn't have to do it necessarily. If that's true, we wouldn't have to do it necessarily on the show. What we could do is just have people, you know, if you're interested in mentoring another person, then what skill level are you interested in mentoring, and what kind of things are you interested in mentoring about? And then maybe put up some kind of, you know, we sure don't want to start posting emails and so forth. So I don't know how to make the contact. They might have to come to the show to make the contact, and then do it somehow chat, you know, just between the two of you. But we could invite them to the next Zoom meeting or something if they wanted to do that, and let them meet the person. I don't know. Like I say, I haven't thought it through, but I think it's a great idea because it does bring Zoom then that one step closer to how I learned originally.
You know, this is something that probably could be done off a separate page on the website. Create a page on the website for these type of things, and whoever was willing to do the mentoring be able to put, you know, their name up on the website. Then we'll figure out how to, you know, get people in touch with one another.
I wonder if right now wouldn't be a good time, maybe to ask Dave for half an hour next week on maybe, I don't know, whatever time's good for you, about how to get that set of rocks in back here. Would you spend a half an hour with me next week?
Oh yeah, that's not a problem. That's actually, I'm supposed to start doing scenery in March, but whatever happened to Matt, Jim?
Just, you know, I'll tell you, but just couldn't do it.
Okay.
Just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm supposed to start sometime in March and pick
Absolutely.
Saturdays because Wednesdays isn't always the easiest one for me.
I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for you to start. And I can't wait to hear about this ride-on thing that you play with.
Well, in March we'll open up the track again, so I'll start gaining materials on that. And I'm also planning a trip up to Train Mountain probably in May or June. So, although I think June 19th is when I'm set up for the ride-on on the show for, you know, the featured model.
Yes, you are. And we set that up because you figured by then you'd been up to the mountain and gotten all the information and so forth. And I can't wait for you know, I think it's great. I'm looking for other people to try to do the same thing because it's part of model railroading, and we can all learn from that.
Yeah, I tried to send you the information on that track, you know, probably within an hour of your place.
Yeah.
I guess you didn't get over there.
No, I did not get over there. I'm chicken. I'm scared of this COVID stuff, and you know, I got one shot now, and I get the other one this coming Thursday. But I'm scared to death of it.
Well, then you still got to wait about 3 or 4 weeks after that before they figure you got the full immunity to it.
And see, down here in Florida, we're wide open. You know, and you see a lot of people all over the place, and now the tourists haven't been coming, so now all the people are saying, well, we got to get the tourists back, so we're going to start advertising for people to come to Florida. Well, the last thing in the world I want right now is people coming to Florida. So I'm kind of between my house and my shop. That's my great distance, unless I have to go to the doctor or something. But other than that, I'm out of it.
You
Yeah, I
need to
got
be a
Spanish.
tourist in Michigan, Jim. It's a good time up here.
Yeah. Listen, I used to live in Michigan,
Oh, whereabouts?
Grosse Pointe.
Oh, really? I'll be darned.
Yeah,
I was on
yeah.
the west side of the city.
yeah. We lived up there, I guess, 13, 14 years, something like that.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. It was June when we left, and I shoveled my last bit of snow to get out of the driveway, dropped the shovel, and drove away. Couldn't believe it. Just snow in June.
Did Ted Becker contact you? He was going to be on tonight.
No, he did not. I was looking for him. I didn't see him, and I didn't want to embarrass by calling on him when he wasn't here. So I've got to contact him.
He's a really good friend, even though he's a long ways from me. But he had his COVID shot yesterday, and
Yeah.
some people have reactions. And I've been on 3 clinics today or 3 Zoom meetings, and he wasn't on any of them. He's usually there.
Yeah, and you know,
I'm wondering if he's not feeling good.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that wasn't his problem. I'm going to try. I hate to call him or try to interfere right now, but in the next few days I'll contact him and see what the issue was. But I just didn't want to embarrass him since I saw he wasn't here tonight. I just didn't call on him. But he's just a neat guy. He really is. When I talked to him about doing the tools, he said, No, you need to get the tool guy. I said, well, I've seen some of your work on video, and I said, as far as I'm concerned, you are the tool guy. I said, I've never seen some of the stuff you've talked about before. So
Yeah, I got my second shot on Wednesday, and they said one of the after effects is insomnia, and boy, it sure hit me. I couldn't sleep at all that night.
Was that Pfizer or Moderna?
Moderna.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Mine's Pfizer. So knock on wood. The first shot, it was nothing. It wasn't bad at all. I don't know about the second one. My wife had Moderna, her second shot, and she had no problems whatsoever.
I didn't have any problems other than I couldn't sleep. I've had both.
Yeah.
And second shot was last Wednesday. So.
Yeah. I think hers was last Saturday. So we could go.
A good friend of mine and his wife had Pfizer, their second shot yesterday, and nothing. Hasn't affected them at all up till this evening. I was just talking to him.
I got mine from the VA because down here we are having such trouble trying to get the county to figure out what they're doing. So I finally called up the VA, and it was the easiest thing I've ever done. I couldn't believe it. The people were just pleasant. I wasn't there more than 20 minutes, to get the shot. I had to stay 15 of those minutes afterward to make sure I was okay. But it was nothing.
That's good.
In the middle of nowhere, and I just went to the drugstore. Well, I mean, it had an appointment. Drugstores are giving them out. So.
Well, the drugstores down here supposedly are going to start giving them out this Friday, but the county here doesn't want to take appointments. They just want to announce, well, we're open at 9 o'clock, so why don't you just spend the night here, and maybe you'll be one of the 200 that get the shot the next morning at 9 o'clock.
Jesus, that's so good.
No, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
They showed a 10-mile lineup of cars in Florida waiting for the shots at some place.
It's like that down here. So, my wife got hers at Publix. We were fortunate to get on the internet and could get through at the time we did it. I couldn't get through, so I finally said, well, I'm just going to try the VA. And when I did, I wasn't on the telephone 5 minutes. I mean, it was the easiest thing I've ever done with the VA.
Yeah.
Hey, over on YouTube, Bob Ross, I guess, lives in Warren, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
So, but I'm not sure what time you're planning on ending this. It sounds like it's starting to drift off and all that.
Well, then why don't we end it? Our next guest coming up is going to be Charles Goodrich. Charles is an MMR. His number is 229, so he's had his for quite a while, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing from him. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you learned something. Wish you the best of luck with your modeling. See you next Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim.